Welcome to the Lead Pedal Podcast with your host Bruce Outridge, where he talks all things trucking. Now let's get rolling.
Hello, welcome to the Lead Pedal Podcast. I'm your host, Bruce Outridge. This is episode number 947. And today we're going to be talking about human trafficking. Of course, it is a brutal crime, and we're going to be covering it here. So stay tuned. We'll tell you all about it. Hey everybody, you've heard of Rosedale Transport. Well, you know, they've got tons of opportunities for you no matter what you want to do. You know what? It doesn't matter what terminal, because they have terminals all across North America, and they are looking for owner-operators, truck drivers, and other team members that might be of interest. The best way to find out all the information about Rosedale, the history of a 50-year company that's stable and rock solid in the industry, is to go to rosedalegroup.com. That's right, just go to rosedalegroup.com, and you can see all the opportunities. Look under the careers tab. You'll see what's available. You'll see they've got 800 employees, 2,500 happy clients, 15 offices, and 50 years of trust. And when you get there and you talk to them and you say, hey, you know what? I want to be part of your team. Make sure you tell them that you heard about it from the Lead Pedal Podcast. All right, rosedalegroup.com. Tell them we sent you. Bye. All right, so human trafficking, of course, Human Trafficking Day was February 22nd, which was actually a day that we were at the TTSAO conference. Human trafficking has been a big issue and becoming a bigger issue for people both in labor markets and sex markets. And of course, there's a lot of organizations that are trying to battle this. One of them being No Human Trafficking, which is Shelley Walker with Women's Trucking Federation of Canada. She's leading that fight along with members of the Canadian government. There's TAT, Truckers Against Trafficking, which are down in the U.S., and they are also working their way up into Canada, and we've worked with both organizations, and I promote both organizations. And then, of course, there's one out west with Paul Brandt, the country singer, is out west, and he's leading the fight with an organization out there. And there's also been a number pop up. So it doesn't really matter where you get your information. The important part is that you get the information and understand the signs so that you know what to look out for. Living in Canada, we often think that only bad things happen in other countries like the U.S., but the 401 is probably the leading corridor for human trafficking in North America. And it's because it goes straight across from the United States to the province of Quebec. So, you know, you will see it. And if you don't know what to look for, then you may not recognize it. And they're not asking you to get involved, but if you know what you're looking at, then possibly you can make a call and save a life. So we were at TTSAO at the conference here, and the Women's Trucking Federation of Canada had a panel going with women leaders who are really involved with human trafficking and what their companies are doing about it. NAT, Northern Academy of Truck Training, which is one of the TTSAO schools up north, released their trailer. They wrapped the trailer. And of course, Women's Trucking Federation, Sharp Transportation, and Motive Media have all done that in the past. So it's good to see more of them getting on, and it's to bring awareness to the fight. I've covered this on our television show. I've covered this a number of times on the podcast, and we'll continue to do so. I know our friends over at Trucker Radio have made a stand to really combat it even more. I think everybody talking about it, everybody knowing the signs. There's training you can take for free, which will take you maybe half an hour or an hour, and then you would know the signs, and you can save a life just by doing that. So we're going to get into, when we come back, we're going to get into the presentation from the Women's Trucking Federation of Canada, the panel discussion they had at the TTSAO conference in February. All right, stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey folks, have you heard of the Trucking Network? That's right, they put on some of the biggest job fairs around Ontario. And you know what? Their last one in Brampton was absolutely packed. In fact, they had 30 more sponsors than they thought, and it was a record time. So it's a really, really good time there. Anyway, their next one, they are already gearing up for 2023. Their next one will be in March 2023. And the best way that you can keep an eye on all of the different things they do, because they have articles for their magazine, they have webinars sometimes, and they've got different events coming up. The best way to plan for that is to go to the Trucking Network events leadpedal.ca. And if you talk to him, make sure you tell him that the Lead Pedal podcast sent you. Thanks for listening.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we're going to head into our next speaker session here at the TTSAO 2023 conference. I would like to introduce Shelley Walker up to the stage. She's going to be our moderator for the panel, and it's going to be on human trafficking and the work that TAT Canada and the Women's Trucking Federation of Canada are doing through their No Human Trafficking program, and how we need to really share this information and get more people involved in this crime.
Shelley, it's all yours.
Thanks, Guy. So I'm just going to give you a brief introduction into what human trafficking is. For those that aren't aware, today is National Human Trafficking Awareness Day in Canada. This is the third year for this designation in Canada. A lot of people are questioning why in the US it's January 11th, in Canada it's February 22nd. What can I say? Us Canucks, we like to do our own thing. So they made their own special day. I can tell you to watch for announcements that'll be coming down from the federal government in the next upcoming few weeks, because they're going to make some big changes to human trafficking in the Criminal Code of Canada in regards to human trafficking here in Canada. So that's pretty exciting. What's not so exciting right now is the fact that a new labor trafficking report was put out by the Canadian Centre to End Human Trafficking. Labor trafficking has greatly increased in Canada. And it's something that we all need to be aware of, and I would encourage you to follow the Canadian Centre to End Human Trafficking over the next probably month or so. Are we going to this one now? As to what's going on. So sometimes we find that people do not know the difference in trafficking. So I'm going to just give you a quick explanation of what domestic trafficking is, and then what international trafficking is, and then smuggling, because people often confuse them. So domestic trafficking occurs when the entirety of the crime occurs within a country's borders and no international boundary is crossed. And I can tell you that most of the trafficking that occurs in Canada is domestic. So it happens within our borders. These are people that are not brought in from somewhere else. International trafficking occurs when they are transporting citizens of one country into another for the purpose of exploitation. And smuggling, which sometimes people will say, oh, did you see they busted all those human traffickers for bringing those people across the border down to Texas? That is migrant smuggling, which does not fall under human trafficking. So today we have some really great panelists. So I will start with introducing Samantha Clark from Knowledge Surge. Each one of the ladies will tell you who they are, what they do, and why they're involved in human trafficking.
So my name is Samantha Clark. Thank you, Shelley. I am the Director of Commercial Solutions for DriveWise Knowledge Surge in Barrie. I've been in the truck training industry for about 12 years now. Love every minute of it. And I'm also Executive Director for Women's Trucking Federation of Canada and heavily involved in the No Human Trafficking Committee. Well, Shelley asked me to get involved a couple of years ago, and of course I went in, and pretty passionate about what we do and spreading the word.
Thank you. I'm Laura Dickinson. I am the Vice President of Safety and Compliance for North America for Day & Ross. I have been in the trucking industry and with Day & Ross for 14 years, and I co-chair the Truckers Against Trafficking Canada Council Committee with Heather, and also as part of my daily work at Day & Ross, I am responsible for our partnership with Truckers Against Trafficking, and what the work that we do to help get the message out there that human trafficking is a problem and what we can do as an industry to stop it.
Good afternoon. My name is Wilna Stewart-Franklin. I am the Community Relations Director for UPS Canada, and I represent the UPS Foundation here in Canada. I've worked for UPS, first with the airline and then in operations this is my 15th year now. And part of this new role that I've taken on is about not just fostering philanthropy and volunteerism, but it's really about engagement and education. And over the last 18 months or so, I've become involved as well with Truckers Against Trafficking. It's an organization that our organization in the U.S. in particular has been very has had a long-standing partnership with. And so part of the reason why I'm here and involved in this panel is because I too believe in the importance of educating and sharing awareness.
Good afternoon. I'm Heather Mawitty, and I'm the Director of Human Resources for the Kriska Transportation Group. As Laura mentioned, I'm part of the TAT Canada Committee. I co-chair with Laura. And I just want to thank the TTSAO and Shelley for putting this on the agenda today. As Shelley mentioned, it is National Human Trafficking Awareness Day, and I know that the TTSAO has had speakers in the past from various groups and survivor speakers at your events, but it's important that we can keep this important topic on the agenda, so thank you.
Laura, why do you feel it's important to train your drivers on human trafficking awareness?
Well, it's a fairly well-known fact that human traffickers use our roadways, rest stops, truck stops, rest areas as, methods for transporting and trafficking their victims. And truck drivers are the eyes and ears of our roads. Those are the places that they are every single day. So having the ability to use those eyes and ears every single day to look out for things and be aware of what's happening in our world and in our own towns is incredibly helpful to hopefully put an end to this and to help some of the victims that are out there.
Heather?
Yeah, I think Laura spoke really well to that, but what I will say, and the uncomfortable part of this topic is people in our industry buy sex at truck stops and rest areas. And so not only do we want to educate our drivers on what to look for in signs of individuals being there against their will, but also, too, that type of education helps us end the market for human trafficking. And if there's no market, then there will be no victims. So that education and awareness is very important for our drivers in this industry.
So part of the reason why I feel it's important, UPS delivers millions of packages every single day. And those drivers on those routes, they've had those routes for long-term time. So they, as Laura said, are the eyes and ears of their neighborhoods. They interact with their customers, they interact with businesses every single day. So they have a really great opportunity to see and hear and know when something's not quite right. So giving them that awareness training, like we're already teaching them about safety. We ask them to be safe with their vehicles. We ask them to be safe in neighborhoods around people. And this training is just an extension of safety because it's about community safety, about ensuring that we have safe, secure neighborhoods, and we're not allowing this scourge really to take hold and take root.
I can tell you, I was just at a conference last week where we discussed the courier drivers and the important role that they can play, almost similar to school bus drivers who see the same kids at the same bus stops every day. So they often recognize when kids are repetitively not getting on the bus or they're not going to school. So I think the courier industry is a really important industry beside the other parts of trucking that are raising this awareness for human trafficking. So Samantha, how long has Knowledge Surge been teaching human trafficking awareness to their students?
We have been training our students for about 2 years now on the no human trafficking training, and it's been pretty eye-opening to say the least. So just, getting the reactions from them, and it's just the not knowing, the not understanding. So it's definitely pretty eye-opening to every student that goes through it.
So Samantha, well, I'll just start with you and we'll go down the line here. How do you feel about human trafficking awareness becoming a mandatory component of entry-level training?
I think it's incredible. I think it's something that has to be done. You know, even when you had asked me to start getting it more involved a couple of years ago, I think just seeing over the past couple of years how it's now actually being talked about. Right? Like, you never heard of people talk about it before like you do now. And I think that's important. And that's, you know, just spreading the word and making people aware of what's happening.
So as a school, because we're at a Truck Training School Association event, how is that affecting your curriculum? Is it taking much more time out of your instructor's day? Is it bothersome to the program that's existent now?
Not at all. We already do it. We know it's going to be standard, but we, at Knowledge Surge, we want it to get on top of that and offer it to our students and do what we can to make sure we can help put an end to this.
Right. Well, let's go with Heather.
Any questions?
Yeah, I'll give you a question. Have your drivers been receptive to the training? And have they given you any feedback, positive or negative?
Absolutely receptive. So we started with a video as part of our winter training about 5.5 years ago. And when that first came up, it was our training manager who put that into the winter training, and I kind of readied myself as HR to think, okay, here we go, here comes the complaints. And it was really the opposite. It opened the door for conversation. We had really good feedback, and then we joined TAT and started doing actually the formal training. But I've never had a driver complain about having to do the training. I've had a lot of conversation. It really sparks the dialogue to say, people come to my office and ask questions about our involvement. What else can they do? They often tell me stories of something that they think they saw but didn't really understand. So it really just makes a lot of connections. And then they take that information home, right? And so it's not just training your drivers or training your students. It's that knowledge of, wow, I didn't realize this problem was this big. I didn't really understand the people that I saw at that truck stop might not be there from their own volition, and that that this is a crime that people are being forced into this. And so it really, really creates a lot of conversation, a lot of dialogue. I think just beyond the school and beyond the carrier and out into the public.
I think one of the great things about both of the programs is that they're free. And they're available online. So if your driver or your student gets sparked and inspired by what they've seen, they often will share that with family and friends or their children. So I think that's one unique thing, because some of the programs, as we know, are quite costly, and there's some really good free resources out there, and we'll share links to both of them later on in the slides. So, Wilna, what about your drivers, your couriers? Because I know they're more of a fast pace. They've got to get in and out. They've got to schedule a lot tighter than a long haul driver or a C&D driver.
I agree. They do have a tight schedule, but again, with our safety training at UPS, we've always focused on keeping your eyes moving, seeing the big picture. But when we first initiated the training here in Canada, our U.S. drivers had already been taking it, and there'd been a lot of positive feedback. Just like Heather said, it sparks conversation. People wonder, did I see something? And people are invested in their roots, in their communities. We live here, we work here, we play here. The people that we love, the people that we serve are in these communities as well. And one of the things that has grown out of starting trafficking awareness training with our driving group is that we've also managed to train over the last few years 3,000 airline pilots as well. Wow. Airline pilots, they're flying all around the world because we understand this isn't just a problem here, it is a global issue. So when they're in an airport in Toronto, they're in an airport in Louisville, they have an opportunity there to spot the signs, to use their training to see if there's something hinky. Is there something that they can report? And like you said, the resources are free. The videos or the training doesn't take long, it sparks conversation, and our hourly employees have asked as well. They're like, we want this training, and we've been giving it to them gladly. It's important.
Okay. And Laura, we often say the people down on the East Coast are more laid back than anybody else. And we often, in a lot of the stuff revolving human trafficking in Canada here, that, A lot of them don't believe it's happening. Some of them don't realize that Nova Scotia is the highest province in Canada for human trafficking. Did you know that? Nova Scotia, friendly Nova Scotia. So how are your drivers receptive to it?
It was incredibly eye-opening for a lot of them, because as you say, I mean, on the East Coast, we like to think that it doesn't happen where we are, it just happens in the big cities. But we all know that's not true. Our drivers have been incredibly receptive to the training and have been asking us for more. More information, more of what can I do, how can I help you to get the message out? And it's been really, really well received. And we've also had other carriers in the Atlantic provinces reach out to us and ask us, what made Day and Ross want to do something about human trafficking, and how do we get involved? What can we do? So it's been just a really amazing opportunity for us, not just for our Day and Ross and the Day and Ross drivers and brokers, but for the industry as a whole, to really learn more about human trafficking in Canada. And we have the luxury of having facilities in every province across the country. So even though we are based on the East Coast and we have a very large representation there, we have facilities in every province. And so we've been able to kind of help get that message out. But it has been overwhelmingly positive.
I do know you do have a Day and Ross owner-operator who is very much vocal in the truck driving groups across Facebook about the training that he's done. And he's actually taken 7 different training courses with 7 different organizations. And he wants to learn more. And every once in a while he'll message me, is there any new legislation? Right? What's coming out? Is there anything new? Yes. Is there a new course? Because I want to spread the word. It's important to me to help share information. As we say, sharing is caring. So I think, it's important. Sam, why did Knowledge Search feel it was important to wrap a trailer for human trafficking awareness?
Well, I would hope everyone has had a chance to take a look at the trailer out here in the parking lot. And thank you to Nat for bringing that all the way to Sudbury, by the way. I appreciate it. But, it has some pretty powerful messaging, as you can see. The photos. So it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. We've had instructors who've been at the arena doing some backing practice and come back and say they had people approach them asking questions like, what is this? And wanting to learn more. So it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do, getting people talking and helping spreading awareness.
Yeah. So Heather, why would you say Kriska, or even yourself personally, is dedicated to doing more about human trafficking awareness?
I think really simply it's the right thing to do, right? We've heard from everybody on the panel, it's not hard. The training's free. There's great resources from many different groups out there online. It's easily available to us, and I think our industry has a unique opportunity to make a difference, and we can only do that by raising awareness and spreading education and training our drivers. And just, I think Wilma said it as well, beyond your drivers, it's been very well received from everybody in our office. So we have had a survivor speak to our safety and human resource group, all of our general managers. We had somebody from TAT come and speak at our executive conference last year. And it makes a difference to go beyond the drivers and to make an impact with your whole organization and to really say, hey, from the top down, this is an important cause that we want to see if we can make a difference in.
So Wilna, I'll ask you the same question.
I'm going to repeat something that Heather just said, from the top down. And I am proud to know that we have corporate executives and we have local leadership that invest their time and invest their dollars in helping to combat human trafficking. So it's not just saying, okay, yeah, here's the training and walking away from it. It really is investing time and dollars in ensuring that we're getting the message out there, that we're not just doing it once, that we're making it annual training, that we're incorporating it amongst all levels of our staff. And I know that that this is newer for us here with UPS Canada, but UPS, our corporate UPS and the UPS Foundation has invested millions in supporting survivors and supporting programs that are in this fight. Yeah, I think I covered that. Sometimes I'll apologize. Sometimes I might lose my train of thought and just get on a soapbox. So my apologies if I do that.
So Laura, I'm going to ask you a different question that we didn't go over, but I know it's one you're going to be able to easily answer.
Jeez.
So I know that you guys are going to be doing some exciting things down at the Atlantic provinces this summer. Can you share a little bit of that with the group that's here? Maybe tell them why you're doing it, and maybe we can encourage others to consider doing the same thing in their areas.
Sure. So one of the things that we have just recently done as well is we just had an order of new reefer trailers come in, and we did wrap 2 of those with a message on the road to ending human trafficking. And they're bright orange 53-foot trailers that are going to be traveling across the country, just hauling regular loads. So really excited about that message that'll be moving along the roadways. Additionally, we are looking at having several events in the Maritime provinces, one of which will be held at our head office in Heartland. And we'll be opening, and then one at our facility in Moncton, New Brunswick. And those will be happening in May, and we will be opening those up to the public as well. So they're able to come in and learn a little bit more about what is going on in Canada in regards to human trafficking and what they can do to be aware, to report instances that they're seeing, and to, maybe see what they can do within their own organization. And then we're also doing a little bit of community outreach with our schools and bus drivers to see if we can get some training done for them as well. And then sponsoring a coalition event with the APTA to help get some more training for industry and for enforcement in the Atlantic provinces.
Great, that's some really exciting stuff that's coming out. I think we have some stuff coming out too in the Alberta provinces, like out west, Alberta, BC, Manitoba. They're doing some great stuff in the next few coming months, so you'll be hearing about that. There is a big declaration in Canada, it's called Net Zero. That'll be happening April 2nd and 3rd in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And that's all about human trafficking and things that are coming out in Canada. Canada is about to announce something that will be the only country globally that has these rules and policies. So it's for those of us working in the HT world, it's very exciting because all of our work is paying off in different ways, right? And I think all of these ladies up here are very passionate about what they do. This isn't a mirror image thing. Like when these ladies speak, they're speaking from passion and from the heart, and that's what's important because that's how we get change. You got to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and know that you're doing it for the right reasons and not just for, I hate to say it, guys, company branding, right? So we have to do it for the right reasons, right? And that's important.
I think that's really well said, Shelley. And just for the schools, I think it's so great that this is now coming as part of MELT, and for the schools that have already started to do that. It really is very impactful. And I think that, beyond just what you're training for your professional AZ drivers, this should be in all of your curriculum. I think it was mentioned earlier on bus drivers. Really big eyes and ears out there as well. Want to tap into being able to educate them. So if you're going to do the training with whatever platform you choose, I would really ask and encourage you to do it not just where you're being told you have to from a MELT perspective, but make it a policy, educate all the people that are walking in your doors.
And for those of you that use Carrier's Edge, they have 3 different human trafficking awareness initiatives that are on that platform, so you can teach all 3 if you want to. So it's handy for you, those of you that are currently using that platform. I guess we did touch on that question already. We should have added more questions here as ladies.
Just throw some into the. I'd like to add on to the training that our students do. So it's actually survivor-led. So the modules that you go through, it's actual survivors of trafficking talking about. It's very eye-opening. It's tough to do. It's tough to see, but it's something that needs to be done, right? To get the point across, and it's very eye-opening for sure.
So would you guys suggest to people, we have a lot of industry leaders that are also sitting in this room, that maybe something on human trafficking would be a good thing at each event. Maybe bringing into some of the major events a survivor that would come up and speak. And do you find that more impactful, listening to that survivor perspective, than you do, somebody putting up pie charts and graphs and, images like we just did?
I'll say the pie charts are great data. And there are going to be some people who are going to look at that data and it's going to touch them. But I think there's nothing more impactful than having somebody sit up here and tell you that it's real. There are going to be people who hear us or see the training that we're doing, and they might still question the validity of trafficking in Canada. And in Canada, people think maple syrup, we're very polite, we play hockey, and they tend to think of trafficking as what you see on television, where you open up the back of a yellow panel van and there's a bunch of scantily clad girls that speak with an accent. But the reality of it, and you mentioned it at the beginning, and it's something that needs to be repeated, that trafficking, human trafficking, happens here. It starts here. It's grown here. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry of exploitation that is occurring, for all we know, down the street. And as people in this industry who have an opportunity to be in Oakville today and in Moncton tomorrow, we have an opportunity to really set an example and to reach out and help stop this, help crush it. It was said right at the start that when we help end trafficking, when we stop providing opportunities for traffickers to flourish, then we end their industry. We put them out of business. And then we can help save communities, we can help save families, we can help save potential victims of this crime, because it's a crime. In the bottom line is, it's something that shouldn't be happening, and we have this really excellent opportunity to talk about this and to share this knowledge that we're getting. And yes, every time we get together in a forum like this, we should talk about it, because it's real and it's important. And when we talk about it, we highlight to each other that this is an important thing, that this is an important issue, and that we have to do our part to help end it.
I think too, sometimes when we look at it from a driver perspective, and drivers that were around in my dad's time, they were lot lizards. That's what they called them. How do we change that unconscious bias? I mean, besides the training, how do we change that unconscious bias that drivers have, as to that's what they are? They put the stickers on their windows of their trucks. I've seen mud flaps. So how do we, besides just doing the training, how do we get them to change that mindset? Like, how do we do that? Any ideas or anything that any of you are doing that's differently, other than here's the training, watch it, and that's it?
I think I said earlier, the training really is crucial, and it's not just one and done training, and that's where I think it's so great that the schools are training as well as the carriers, because if it's a message you hear once, and we throw a lot at a new driver at the school or in orientation, and so there's so much that it's kind of like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to remember 30% of what I'm getting. But when they hear that message, that it's important at the school level and at the ministry level and at the carrier level, and you continue to do that training and awareness and make information available and the ability to see a survivor's story, that's when it starts to make an impact. So I think over time, I've been in this industry 28 years, and it's different. I really do believe, from some of the things I heard at 22 in my first week of work, shocking, and you don't hear it as much anymore. And I think there's been a change in the pendulum starting to change in that, but that takes time and takes awareness and understanding, to me, that these individuals aren't there by choice. Really has been eye-opener. That's the feedback I get from the drivers, is to say, I never thought about it in that context.
Laura?
Yeah, just to kind of echo what Heather was saying too, is it's the repetitive nature of it. It's okay, we go through the training, but then it's also having events, it's talking about it, It's bringing in survivors. It's bringing in people from different organizations to talk about it over and over again. It's having trailers. It's having, that constant kind of in your face so that they can't really get away from it. And I think that's really helpful in making sure that it's not something that's forgotten as well.
And just to share with everybody, there is an organization here in Ontario. He's fairly new. He started when COVID started up. He was a banker who is now, previously just sitting idle. And he was very concerned about lack of housing for survivors. So his nonprofit is called Project Recover. And what they do is they fund houses. So what they've been doing is approaching different industries, different companies, large companies. And for $40,000 for a whole year, you can finance a house that will hold 12 women for the whole year. So it houses them, it feeds them, it clothes them for that amount. And then what they do is they say to you, what would you like to name your house? Right? So I think, that's something as from transportation, there was a group of us talking about it as something, hey, maybe we should look into that, because then we'd actually be helping survivors that are living here, as well as doing some training, because we all so graciously to give to so many different charities to help here locally at home, whether it's food banks, whether it's cancer, whether it's Special Olympics. And because we're trying to do so much more to help with human trafficking, I think it's a unique way that we can kind of help.
Hey folks, have you heard about TransRep? Well, there's a number of services that you may know of that name because they've been around for a while, but you may not know exactly what they do. Isn't that the way with all of us when we have many things on our plate? But let me tell you what TransRep does. Their services include merger and acquisition. So if you're trying to get your company ready for sale, they can help you with that. Consulting services, executive recruitment. Are you someone looking for a better opportunity? And they also help you with business development. Are you somebody trying to get your business going or get your business off the ground? People say when they're going with TransRep, they're going because TransRep is committed to helping their clients reach their goals. They say that they're constantly striving to provide solutions, even for issues they aren't even aware of yet. That's right. TransRep knows when you need some help, even before you know it. They've got an experienced team and a large network which reaches across several sectors, and it's always growing. And they are highly confident in the promise to serve you better. That's right. They don't take their jobs lightly. They know that you need to be successful for them to be successful. So where can you learn about that, their events that they put on, and much, much more? The best place to go is to transrep.ca. Hey, and if you go over there and you're talking to the team over there, would you please let them know that the Lead Pedal Podcast sent you? Thanks very much, everybody. Talk to you later. All right, so that was a good conversation. Hopefully you got some stuff out of that. Go to nohumantrafficking.com for the Canadian version of that, or you can go to truckersagainsttrafficking.org for the U.S. version. Both of them have really good material. I would urge you to go and check them out and learn about human trafficking and learn about what to look for so that you could possibly stop it or prevent it if you see it in the future. A lot of truck drivers have done that, and kudos to them for making that call. Thanks, everybody. Hey, you can listen to us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We're on TikTok. I'm on LinkedIn. Anywhere you can find us, you're going to understand what we do and why we do it. And hopefully you're enjoying our program. And Lead Pedal Media app is an app that we have where you can get everything in one spot, and that is going to be a great app as well. So get that, and we will talk to you later, my friends. Be good for now.
This has been another episode of the Lead Pedal Podcast. For more information or to subscribe to the podcast, visit theleadpedalpodcast.com and be sure to follow the podcast on Facebook and Twitter.